Hello and welcome to Spooning with Mark Wogan. I am here at Corrigan's Mayfair, our new spiritual home for Spooning with Mark Wogan. And I'm joined, as ever, by a very special guest who will be trying the food that they think they love and the food that they think they hate. But who is that special guest this week? Well, he was at one point the second most hated man in Britain after Bin Laden. He doesn't actually carry a lie detector with him wherever he goes. He is the host of Drive Time on Talk Radio, but he is here today to talk about the food that he loves and the food that he hates. And we will work out whether he's telling the truth or not. Will you please welcome my friend, Jeremy Kyle.
Hello, mate.
Hello there. You all right?
I'm good. I am your friend. Cheers.
Yes.
It's rather
A little glass of Chilean Pinot Noir.
to all the Chileans who made the Pinot Noir, thank you so much.
Now,
Lovely.
listen, you don't do many interviews, do
No,
you?
I've done, this is my third ever only interview in my life. I did
Who are the others?
Came Caraway recently.
Did you? What was that? I don't think I caught that.
That was Life Stories on ITV. It's still on catch-up. Connected viewing and all that.
No,
That was
hold on. You interviewed her.
Some have said. The challenge today is for me not to say too much and just fill my face with food. You are a top man, and that's the only reason I'm delighted. I actually thought spooning was not what it's turned out to be.
We can do that
I thought
later.
we were going to be on a bed upside down.
We can do that later. Don't worry about that. Now, let's go right back to the beginning. Born in Reading.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about Reading? Same as
Well,
Ricky Gervais?
Your late father described Reading as simply a stop on the train between London and Bristol, didn't he?
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah. Reading, yeah. Ricky Gervais, Kate Winslet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it, really.
And you went to Reading Bluecoat School.
I did.
Because I grew up in Maidenhead, or near Maidenhead, and I went to Clare's Court, and we used to play...
A girls' school?
No.
Well, I'm just saying.
No. And we used to play you at rugby.
I was no good at rugby. I was that big at that age. I couldn't run very quickly. I was
a chunky child.
I was a chubby boy, yes. So I wasn't very good at rugby, no.
No, because there was one quite distressing picture of you on Life Stories,
Yes.
which was with a sort of what would be kindly described as a strawberry blonde bowl cut.
No, at the age of 6, my mother is dead, bless her heart and rest her soul, but if she hadn't been, I'd have been taking her to task. It was a pudding basin haircut, and I looked as if I got auburn hair. It's extraordinary, sort of like, what did they do in those days?
That was the whole thing, is like, our children have never suffered that.
No.
Terrible 70s haircuts.
No, I was saying to my kids the other day, you wait, there'll be no bin collections and no electricity by Christmas. And then this programme went out, I was humiliated. What were our parents thinking? Embarrassment. Yeah, listen, it was a torrid time being a kid.
I mean, but was growing up tough for you? Did you have a nice time as a kid? I mean...
I had amazing parents who, I said on Lifestyles, and I'd always say to people, they sacrificed a lot to send us to private school. That was their choice. They were amazing. It was about family, and we were very, very tight. And listen, they're both no longer here, but I have nothing but the greatest respect. And I think that those sort of core family values are what
I like
motivates me.
is your stories about your dad you tell, most of which are not repeatable in public. Because one, they're just not repeatable in public, and two, not necessarily celebratory of his legacy.
I think, my old man was old school. He wouldn't have understood the wokeness of today.
No.
But he was just brilliant. And that generation never complained. Even when he was ill at the end, he never complained. I tell this story. I'll try. Do you want me to fudge it a little bit?
Well,
yeah.
Go on.
On the last day of his life, which might sound very sad, but it actually turned out to be one of the funniest days of my life. In only that, he called me to the hospital. I was there anyway, and he sent everybody else off. And he said, "Right, I know I haven't got long left." And I went, "Well, that's very sad." He said, "Well, it's not about you for a change. You're supposed to ask me, if I need anything." And I went, "Right, do you need anything?" He said, "Well, a couple of things." He said, "Do you think," this is a brilliant line, "when you do the eulogy, do you think you could not make it about yourself?" Which is quite interesting.
Well,
and then he
know
said,
you well.
And then he said, "Oh God, I'm going to temper this." And then he said to me, "Now, Victoria, your soon-to-be wife will be wife number 3. Now, you'll know that when I get upstairs, and it won't be long." And I went, "Well, don't say that." He said, "Well, it's not going to be, is it?" He said, "I'm going to get a massive telling off from your mother." He said, "Because I have been chasing women around the care home for 6 years." So he said, "I need to give her some good news. So is Victoria the one?" And I said, "Yes, Dad." And he sort of looked quite pale, and I sort of grabbed his hand and he said, "How sure are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm definitely sure." He said, "No, I need more than that." And I said, "I guess I should say that I just wish I'd met Vic 30 years ago." To which he looked at me, it's the last thing he ever said, and I'll change the words. He went, "She'd have been 8, you sick whatever." And literally, I just laughed and smiled so much, but that was what he was like. He was an amazing man. He was stoic. He worked for the Queen Mother. His values and his morality, both of them were what, governed me, really.
Yeah, but would he? But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like he wouldn't have been deemed as woke, but from the way you've talked about him, and
an amazing
we've
man.
discussed parents and that kind of thing. Extraordinary individual, kind, considerate. All of these things that
family man, worked hard, put himself right down the list. All about hard work, all about getting your head down, treating people nicely, but having an opinion. But it's okay to not actually have the same opinion as everybody else. Like to have a Barney.
I mean, some of his opinions made him a little unpopular in the care home, I've got to be honest. But
yes,
was times of
smoking in the dining room when it was no smoking, all that. Terrible. I used to get called every single day. What's he done now? But it was brilliant, and I miss him every day, genuinely.
Yeah. No, I mean, and he sounded very similar to my father in that respect. What you were just saying there. My dad always put himself last, and everyone would assume, given what he did, that it was front and centre and about him, whatever. But he never bought himself anything. He never kind of, he just, everybody else came in the family. Everybody else came before him,
and I think that's that generation. You can look at it now.
Honest, it's not the same in our homes, is it?
No, Sodom. No. Sodom. But I think, it was, there was a point in his life where he got offered, he worked for the Queen Mother for 41 years, and he was offered another job about 20 years before he retired. And I think it was something he'd always wanted to be, like a bursar, running a school, living in the grounds with his dog and all that. And he didn't take it because he didn't think it would be as secure. And it was all about, in those days, paying off your mortgage and doing right by your kids. And if you could...
And saving.
Yes. I mean, now you can't even afford to pay the bills.
Do you know that my dad, since his first job, which was as a bank teller in Allied Irish Bank in Dublin...
That was the old man's first job as a runner in Coots.
And he put away... Every single paycheck he ever got paid, he put away 30%.
Jeez.
His whole life.
That's amazing.
He died. My mother died, when he passed, my mother was very cash rich. She spent it. Let me tell you. Got nothing left.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to take a moment?
No. We'll carry on. Now, look, so your parents sacrificed a lot.
Yeah,
Sent you and your brothers to private school.
Yep.
And then you, quite frankly, didn't deliver, on that level of education, did you?
No,
Career choices.
I was the sort of runt of the litter, if I'm being completely honest. I was at best medium.
Funny little fat ginger one.
Thank you. Yes. I think. Can you say that? Yes, I definitely was a chubster. With strawberry blonde hair. No, I was mediocre at best. I was painfully shy, which nobody believes because they always go, "You're making it up." Literally, they used to call me Kyle Pile Hemorrhoid. Yeah. If anybody said my name, there was one particular low moment of my career at school. I think we were doing English literature, and there was there were 16 in the class, and everybody had a part. And the teacher, who I won't name, Peter Bodinetz, said, "And you can just be the sort of horse that stands in the stable and does nothing." I was terrible. And then I sort of sussed out at 15, I don't know why it happened, I sussed out that if you became the loudest in the class and took them out of everybody who was taking it out of you, that you'd be all right. And so I didn't enjoy school. I had no legacy at school. And years later, after I had some success on the television, they kept writing saying, "Come back, you're our most famous ex-pupil, and come and do sports day." Sod off.
Yeah.
Not going.
Yeah, because the other alumni is Matt Allwright.
Is he?
Yeah, he went to Reading Blue.
Is he?
He's a very nice man.
No, is he all right?
Yeah, no.
It was terrible. That.
Hey.
He did. It's what?
Alumni.
I like that. Anyway, no, I've never met Matt, but fair play.
Yeah, he's a nice man. So you left school, couple of crappy jobs.
Well, no, I went to the worst university in the history of the world,
Surrey
University.
It's not really, it was a polytechnic that they changed the name of.
Well, I only went because I couldn't get anywhere else. I did history and sociology. The sociology, I had no idea.
What is that?
Well, it was 5 goldfish in a bowl that I looked at for about 6 months. I had no idea. I freely admit that when I go and I talk about how education is too open to people. There's too many courses and there's too many universities. I'm such a hypocritical sod because, I got a 2-2, which is a drinking degree.
Yeah.
In history and sociology. And as is usual in my life, as you might have seen on Life Stories, at Guildford Cathedral, the old man decided to have some time off from the Queen Mother, and they came in all splendour, he and Lady Carl, and I fell up the bleeding steps on my arse.
Yes. No.
And
but that kind of footage is gold to us.
Yes, thank you.
Because as the second most hated UK,
We'd have to explain this story one day. God.
But it is extraordinary because that person that essentially the public person that you then became over the years, because you started obviously you couldn't get arrested on proper radio, and you had to go all the way down to Somerset for your first gig, wasn't it?
Yes, Somerset, yes, all right. My parents were living there, and I got a job on Orchard FM, which is extraordinary. I know, extraordinary. And you're allowed to swear on this podcast.
Yes.
So
Johnny will beep it out.
So they gave me a breakfast show, and it was a little studio in the middle of a field in a house somewhere in Taunton, and there were cows, right?
Yeah.
And in those days, I used to smoke, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was on the breakfast show, and I've done about an hour. And then I said, right, well, I'm quite stressed. It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'll pay you 3 songs, and I'm going outside for a chuff. Mm-hmm. And the white light went, which is the boss. And he went, you can't say chuff. I said, well, it's a cigarette. He went, down here, it's not, it's a vagina. You can't say that live. I know. Look, the cameraman knows exactly what I mean.
You started your career right in the lower echelons.
I loved radio from day one.
Yeah,
it was so great.
But it is a medium that suits you, and it always has.
To the mind, isn't it?
Yeah, and it always has suited you. And it's funny that thing of people like yourself or Dad who had great television success.
Oh, you're right.
Always return to the sort of comfort of radio.
I never understood the people who said that television's difficult. If you, like your dad, and I've done radio for 25 years, if you can talk for 3 hours, if you can, not even songs, whatever, if you can link that and you can identify, that's what your dad did so well with his audience. It's like Tarrant on Capital. Chris is a mate of mine, technically the worst DJ in the history of the world. But I met a woman once who summed up why Tarrant and people like your dad were who they were. She said to me, from the age of 12 till I was 30, Chris Tarrant was in my life every morning. I went through puberty, A-levels, university, an engagement, a split, a marriage, giving birth, all that, right? A divorce, and he was there every morning. That's what your dad became. For radio, for me, was just brilliant because it was a chance to just, I don't even know. I love it. I love the fact that you can just do your thing. And they all nowadays, they all plan stuff and write scripts, don't they?
No. There's no script here. There's a couple of notes about your life. I mean, but where it sort of started to form into sort of you found your groove was with Jezza's Confessions.
Well, yeah, so I'd been working with a guy called Paul Jackson in Invicta, and he then decided to, he was taken to Birmingham to work at BRB, and he took me with him. And he said, so I was doing an evening show, and he called me in after about 3 weeks, and he said, he was from Scotland, you are essentially, that's no good at all, is it, the worst music jock in the history of the world. I said, well, because you keep talking over the bleeding songs. I said, well, I've lots to say. Yeah. So he said, I want
Jezza's Jukebox.
Thank you, yes. Sony Award-winning Jezza's Jukebox.
Thank you.
Do you know what I won the award for?
Tell us.
It was bonfire night, and I was really bored and depressed, and I said, let's sack the worst employee you've got. And this pizza company phoned up from Erdington, mate, and the bloke on his bike who delivered pizzas was crap, so they fired him on air. Terrible, you couldn't do that nowadays. Anyway, so Jackson says to me, you're the worst music jock in the history of the world. What I'd like you to do is a late night phone-in show. So I walked out and told him to shove it. I thought that was the end. But he got me back, and we created Jezza's Confessions, which had absolutely no... Well, it was actually called Jezza's Leighton Live, right. And we used to get letters, and this is no judgment of the people of Birmingham, to Jezza Leighton. You understand where we're going there?
Yes.
And it was just anything goes. You'd open the phone lines, and suddenly at 10 o'clock at night in Birmingham, 1 million people were going, geez.
I mean, it was hugely successful.
And nobody knew when I did the Jeremy Carr show. So people would go, was that you on Jezza's Confessions? And they'd say, we sat on the drive and listened because the stories were outrageous. But it wasn't outrageous. It was just what people were doing.
I know. And sometimes that thing, which you were able to tap into brilliantly with that show, that is the audience become the stars. And that's what you did with the Jeremy Kyle show as well. The audience were the stars. Yes, how you drove that show was phenomenal, and it was so watchable.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we were saying to Kate, it's a bygone era, and for all the reasons that everybody knows about, quite rightly, things like that don't happen now. But you have to understand that at that point, for people, it was a different time. It was before mobile phones, and somebody made a really good point to me the other day. Quite rightly, television's controlled by Ofcom, right? Social media is not controlled by anything. Yeah. You get pylons now on social media that impact on people's lives enormously. Listen, the Jeremy Kyle show was what it was, but it was on 7 times a day for 15 years. It went to America, and it was pretty phenomenal, to be fair.
That moment where it suddenly became what it was, which was a kind of beast.
I remember it distinctly. It was about 3 weeks in, and because I'd never been in a television studio when I got the gig. I went for this audition. Trisha Goddard had been doing it, and they sort of cast around to get people, took us to Norwich in the dead of night, which is quite scary. And we arrived in the studio in the morning, and everything was Trisha's face and Trisha's microphone. I was terrified. And all these people were talking to me going, this is no man's land. What? Between the audience and the stage? And I'm going to get blown up. And so I sort of did my bit, and then I went home. And it was sort of 6 months, and papers were saying it's between an unknown, might be me, I don't know, yes, and an established television presenter. No. I'm not going to give that name because it'll... No. And,
go on. Who was it? It's history now.
Seifert. And then I got this show. I had absolutely no idea. Yeah. The only reason I sat on the step, which became synonymous with the Jeremy Kyle, was because I couldn't hear anything from the audience. And so 3 weeks in, this journalist went, I think it's so empathetic. And because nobody had told me what to say, I went, well, I couldn't hear anything in the bleeding audience. We were talking. So we started this, and about 3 weeks in, it was all going. I didn't even know if it was going okay because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And this woman came on, and she said, I love your honesty. And I went, great, thanks. And she explained a story. I wouldn't be rude if I don't know what it was about. And I said, do you want me to be honest or do you want me to lie? And in my ear, the editor went, oh God, you're stuffed. And I just told her what I thought.
Yeah.
And she went, and the audience went, bat.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. And then she went, absolutely, love you, Jess, and went off, and that was it, right? And it was just about honesty. And I get now that people will go, oh, that was quite direct. A bit like Simon on The X Factor. He used to say, you can't sing and I don't like your dress. Can you imagine now the anxiety that will cause? So it was part of, but it was never, it didn't set out, it sort of developed. And it was like Raw. So it could be funny, sad, upsetting, argumentative, whatever. It was a journey.
But it was more honest.
Yes.
To your point now, that kind of conversation happens in 10-second bursts on social media now. Yeah. And, you got to the point where you were cancelled, the show was cancelled because of a perceived effect on somebody. And that's happening every single day. That exact effect is happening every single day in an unmonitored world of social media.
I mean, I completely agree. And I think, I spent, after the sad way that the show ended, and I've said it to anybody and everybody, it was really, really sad. The frustrating thing for me was I couldn't speak about it for 6 years because it was a legal situation. My heart and soul went out to that guy and his family, Steve Diamond, but I couldn't speak, and everybody piled in. And you take that, I've said it before, if you're not prepared for that, don't put yourself in the limelight. But it was not possible to give them a side, okay? And also at that time, because it's the past, millions of people watched it. So does that make them all wrong as well? So, in the end, I kept my head down and I answered the questions and I did what I had to do. But it was, listen, it ran for 15 years. We did 4,000 shows, 37,000 guests. We took it to America. It was, a small, the funniest story of all was when I arrived in America, like the kid from Reading, you can imagine, I walked down 56, your dad had liked this story, and I see 100-foot poster in my face, and I thought, Jesus, boy, and I walked in and this bloke looked at me in makeup, slightly camp, not initially, and he went, oh no, I can't work with this, you look awful, your face is lined, and oh no, does he have to be the host? Yeah, I do, it's my name on the bloody wall, what are you talking about? But listen, it was an extraordinary journey with some extraordinary people. Really sad the way it ended. Glad that we were able to have, some clarity on that. And that's the truth.
Do you think if it had kept going, it would have survived the pandemic?
No, of course it wouldn't have, because the pandemic, and there's the irony, COVID meant that you couldn't have had the live audience, you couldn't have had the guests. And I think, if you're honest about shows, they have a shelf life. And if you'd said to me, again, I'll bring it back to your dad, 15 years is a hell of a long time for a programme. It started in 2005. 2 days before my 40th birthday. It finished in 2019, and it's a bygone era. And I completely get that. Benefit Street was on. All these shows that don't pay, will take it away, all that stuff, right?
Don't get done, get dom.
Thank you. But I think what we have now in society, which I genuinely feel is true, is that we're getting to a point where everything... The Jeremy Kyle show was Marmite's. People loved it or hated it.
Loved it.
There's lots of people that will criticise almost everything from the past. We have a generation that want to cancel, take down, strip bare. I think you can learn from the past. I think television's learned from the Jeremy Kyle show, but it's learned from many things, and then you move forward. That's it,
But it was a difficult time for you, and you have had, like many of us, various sort of mental health struggles over the years. You've been diagnosed with OCD.
I did. Yeah, what?
What?
No, I used to lick my golf balls.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he's got over that.
Yes.
But also, understandably, your kind of whole world is ripped away from you, and you're left. Like, what happens now?
I remember it was the most bizarre morning when the boss of ITV rang me to say that they were taking the show off air, because I was sitting on the toilet and my wife came in 3 minutes later and said, I'm pregnant. So my arse fell out of my life on about 3 occasions in the space of about 30 seconds. But I totally understand the decision now. Yes, it wouldn't have survived the pandemic. My first thoughts were with Steve Diamond and his family, and then the 100 kids that had worked their backsides off and had mortgages and had lost their jobs overnight. You can look back and go, shelf life, yeah. Pandemic, absolutely. The frustrating thing was that you could never put your side for a long time. But that's it.
No. And what I like is, for you, is those real people who gathered around you and looked after you.
I was never one that would go to the opening of an envelope, which so many do.
More an opening of a fridge for you, isn't
Precisely.
it?
Thank you, yes. Well, it was when I was young. Yes. Fatty Kyle again. That'll be somewhere. But I think that you find out, Mark, I mean, listen, we met at Virgin, you're an amazing bloke, I'll love you forever, but you find out who your friends are. Piers Morgan, instantly like that. People will go, Piers Morgan, yeah, rock solid. Kate Garraway, rock solid. Lots of people, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I can also tell you that 3 weeks ago when the Life Stories interview went out, I got text messages from people I haven't heard from in 6 years. Yeah. I didn't reply.
No.
And I think that's one of the things that probably was a good thing out of that horror, was that you
work out who you work out.
Of course you do, mate.
You end up, when you're that ubiquitous as you were at that period, you're everywhere, mate.
Oh.
Right?
What? Just because I ate a lot? Is that what you're trying to say?
No.
Getting back there, look at you. Fattest.
You're built like a racing snake. But you were Jeremy Kyle.
7 days a week.
7 days a week. You were quite frankly unavoidable.
Sorry, it was on 7 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 times a year for 15 years. Somebody's going to have seen it.
So you could potentially have suffered from what we used to describe in our family as famous person disease, because everybody wants a piece of you. So you assume I've got it going on.
The interesting thing about that show was, because it was such a bubble, because I was making so many, and I was spending 6 months a year in England making them and 6 months a year in America, and I had one week off a year for 3 years. You get into a bubble, and it's almost like a continual cycle. So I didn't go to all those.
And what happens with bubbles?
They burst. Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Well, no. But that's the thing, and then you discover.
You never see it coming though. Even when you'd say, I'd say for years, this isn't my oxygen. I don't need this. When I'm good and ready, but when it's taken from you, when you don't expect it to be taken from you. I remember about 2 weeks after I told Johnny, your producer, this 2 weeks after the show was axed, and you go from being king of the castle, you're not allowed in the castle grounds. That's fine. I remember getting up for a wee at 4 o'clock in the morning, because that happens all the time now. It's an old thing. And there was always a driver at 4:30 in the morning to take me to Manchester. And there's a driver outside my house. And I was like, oh my God. It was the guy next door. And I went back to bed and couldn't sleep because I thought, oh God. And almost every part of my life for 15 years have been totally categorised by timings, filming, promos, flights, America, England, this. I didn't do anything else because I didn't have any other time to do it. And then it finishes and you learn about yourself.
But you strike me now as a man who enjoys his life more, almost as a result of what you've been through.
It's interesting when you look back and you go, I lost my dad. In the space of 12 years, I lost both my parents, I lost my job, I had a marriage breakdown. I had that breakdown because of what happened for 3 months. And then you go, do you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm with an amazing woman who changed my life. My friends have all been amazing. I got back on the radio thanks to the wonderful Denny Morris, who I've known for years, and frankly, let's be honest, is a friend for life, right?
And is the reason we're both sitting here.
Well, he is the only. Well, I did get. I mean, yes, right, fair enough. And then you get choices then, and I've just. Yeah, I feel in a much different place. And maybe you can look back and go, I wouldn't have been able to see the old man every day. I wouldn't have been able to see Oliver every day for the first 2 years of his life. It wasn't nice, but there will be plenty of people watching this going, well, he bloody well deserved it, gobshite. He was giving it to people for years. I'm like, that's fine. I don't care about that.
But it was your job.
It was my job.
It was your job, but that's the point. And I think it was your job as opposed to who you are.
Yeah, but that's the interesting thing. Even to this day, people think, and that's the interesting thing. When I did Kate Garraway, I fell over as I walked on stage, right?
Good.
No, but I'm a clumsy sod. Everybody knows that. None of that polished crap, right? So you're right. People go, oh, they'll go, is he all right then? It's clumsy, funny, but that's it. So you're right. It was a character. I think it took a while to realise it was a character. The core values that you talked about with my parents, those form the base of cheating, lying, snorting, whatever you want to say. But yeah, it was for some reason I put that suit on and I became somebody, and then I'd go home and you'd have to change a nappy or put the bins out. So it was never that showbiz rubbish that you hear so much
I
about.
thought you were rich enough to afford staff. Turns out not. But, you know. Now, look, we've got to that point.
I was trying to sound normal.
Oh, you're not normal.
Yeah. Do you want to do the second most famous hated man? Do you want to do that story?
Well, do you know what I'm going to do first? Is I'm going to get you a bit of food down here.
Oh.
Now, this is something I've got to take you to task on.
Oh, God.
Right? Because you are talking about some of my favourite stuff.
Oh, dear God.
Right? Carrots and parsnips. What is wrong with those? Is this some kind of childhood thing?
No, I only like peas. I mean, I don't mind spinach if it's nicely done, but I'm not a rabbit, am I?
That is honey roast parsnips and carrots. They're delicious. Look, try one. Look. Oh, try that. What is wrong with that?
Nothing. It's like eating your underwear, isn't it?
I've got a bit of.
No!
I've got a bit. That's a bit of thyme.
I'm not a massive fan of root vegetables.
I love root vegetables.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is. It might be boarding school. You know, they steamed everything to the end of its life. You know, or it was wet soggy cabbage or wet lettuce or wet. I think, on a serious note, if you're doing spinach with garlic or bacon, I don't know. Things are different
Obviously,
now.
it tastes nicer.
Yeah, I mean those carrots are better than my mother's used to be.
Eat a parsnip. Go on, because I know how much you hate.
This is no, I don't mind. I'm just like, oh Christ. I mean,
that's nice.
How is that nice?
It is nice. All right, look. Do
you want me to say that?
You touched upon.
Yep.
Your wife.
Yep.
Who? I mean, you've made no secret of it. She is your third.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you talk about her when we're talking privately is she's a very special woman. Amazing.
And because she's nothing to do with this industry, brilliant mother, reminds me of my mother, the way she is with the kids, the way she took on my kids, and definitely wears the trousers, not really wanting to admit that in public, but no, just balanced and down to earth. And I always remember when all of that happened 6 years ago, the first thing she said to me, what's the matter? And I went, what are you talking about? She went, we're going to live with my parents and I'll go and work in a supermarket. Stop worrying. I don't want you to be like this ever again. Stop worrying. And amazing. And Yeah, my best friend by a mile.
It's funny when you. I mean, I luckily met that one first time round. I mean, we.
What, Victoria?
No,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
no, my wife.
Oh,
that
sorry.
version.
Oh, that.
You know.
You see, now that's very. Yes. Listen, there you go.
Yeah, but it does. To my point, I am about to make is, and I say this, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, and when my wife listened to it, she goes, "Would you please not say that out loud?"
He's about
Despite
to
the
again.
fact it's true, is we've been together 26 years. And I think if you've been with someone that long, you've been divorced at least twice. It's just nobody left.
Listen, I won't talk about other people who aren't here, but Victoria is very special and deserves. I always say to her, you realise that I'm obviously 20 years older than that I'll be gone. What will you do? I want you to find happiness. She went, I'm going to sit in a dark room and read a book and there'll be no kids and no you and it'll be quiet, all right?
I mean, I would imagine she'd be looking forward to a little peace and quiet.
I mean, 6 kids I've got, and she's an amazing woman.
Now, we've got to that point in proceedings now where I am going to hand you the Spooning with Mark Wogan blindfold. And you will don this and I will feed you your first spoon.
Is this in preparation for the what's it called again? No, not the spooning. Can you imagine that this is like the eating challenge and I'm a celebrity? This is actually really scary.
Right, I'm just going to move this stuff out the way because I've got to move the first one.
I'm going to have wine.
I'll give you your creations back later.
Lovely, thank you. I'm very happy to put anything in my mouth that you want me. Didn't sound
right.
Like that,
So I'm going to. So this is the first one. It's under. We've got some very smart cloches now that we're at.
Oh, what?
Cloches. You know the dome that goes.
Oh, I thought you were saying galoshes.
No, not galoshes.
No.
Now I am going to feed you.
Oh God. Right.
But you've got that under your nose now. I know it's spooning with Mark Wogan, but I'm going to have to do this with a knife and fork. Right? So
it's knife and forking with
Wogan. Bit of that, a little bit of that on there.
Okay, I'd love to see Johnny's face. I can smell what it is. Tell me when I have to open my mouth because I look like.
Open wide. Here we go. Gather that all in. Now tell me about flavours, textures. What have you got there?
I know what this is. It's amazing. It's a scallop, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
How nice is that?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Here, take your blindfold off. Here's your knife and fork. You can finish that.
That was amazing.
So that is...
Why have I never eaten a scallop? Do you want to know why?
Never had a scallop in
Do you want
his
to
life.
know why?
Go on.
Can't. It's not a great story. Oh my God, that's amazing. What's here?
So that is bacon jam.
Oh, bacon. I mean, who does bacon jam?
A little bit of...
Johnny's really
seaweed.
happy. But I've always thought that it looks sort of plastic and...
Yeah, but they're delicious.
It is
this
amazing.
is my whole thing.
Yeah, no, you have completely convinced me. That is amazing. Johnny, that's amazing.
Going in for more.
Right, I'm going to be ordering scallops next time. Certainly at Corrigan's in Mayfair, Berkeley Square. Very good.
Yes.
You like the way I did that?
That was good. Thank you. Hope
like
they'll
that.
continue to look after us now as a
What's
result.
that?
That is the coral from the edge of the scallop. So some people don't serve that bit. They do here. It's more intense.
That was absolutely beautiful. But what that does is actually prove to me with age that carrots with flavour, scallops with flavour. You know, maybe it's boarding school, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I've spent 40 years, 15, 20 years on a diet and I haven't eaten the right things. But the older you get, you want more flavours in your palate, don't you?
Stick with me. You'll learn a lot.
That's what your wife said.
Yeah. There's no need for that. So look, you have...
Am I putting the blindfold back on?
No, we'll get to that. Don't worry about that.
That was nice.
You've been through the ringer in terms of both your personal and your professional life. But, you know, we met when that was sort of all past for you. And, you know, you have a fantastic show on Talk Radio. What is next? Can we
Television.
talk about what's next for you?
Well, listen, I'm talking to ITV. There's no secret of that. We did life stories, and we are very keen, I think, to work together. There are other television networks and production companies. It's one of those processes. The weird thing about me right now is that I fell into television and went from never having done a television, never made a pilot, never gone to production company meetings, to having this show that lasted 15 years that then ended. So it's an interesting process, because I find myself sitting in front of people talking about ideas. And my natural instinct, can we just get on with this and just make it? Because I'm not very good with, Johnny knows, with this planning. We're going to have a meeting or a focus group, but no, it's also the chance. Thank all the people that are making it possible too. I don't want to ever just do one thing again, and I want to be able to try different things. So I'd be delighted to do a documentary. I'd be delighted to do a live program. I'd be delighted to do a quiz. I'd be delighted. Do you know what I mean? And having that opportunity is what is now appearing very likely. So that's great. But I think if I'm being completely honest, because of what happened, I don't think I'll ever feel. I don't know whether during the car show, maybe I don't think it's ever going to end. I don't know. Maybe with the flashing lights on the dashboard that I thought it was going to. I don't know. But I think my whole persona and my whole thought about the process, and I want to spend more time at home with my kids and enjoy that life on the coast. But I also want to do different things. And whether that's writing a book or doing a quiz or making a documentary or doing a crime series or doing some presenting live, that's it.
I've heard a rumour you are writing a book.
Well, I've written a bit.
Well, when you say a bit, what, like 1,000 words? How far?
10,000.
10,000. Not quite a book, though, is it?
No, it's got to be 80.
And it's about you.
It is.
I mean, a subject you know a little about.
Yes, from the very dark, chubby.
It is your memoir.
Yes.
And is that going to be? Are you viewing that as a way of making a statement about who you are?
No, I'm not actually. And actually, when we came back and we did live stories and I could finally put my side, that's fine. That's boring. We can move on now. There's just so many funny things that have happened and weird things and things that would make people.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'll look forward to it, but my worry is, by the time you finish this book, will I have heard all the stories?
I do tell a story, don't I?
Yeah. No, but it's great because whenever we get together, we just sit opposite and tell each other.
Do you want me to tell you one particularly appalling story?
Tell me one particular. Yeah.
It was a Jeremy Kyle show where we were doing a Christmas special, and all I can say is that the Welsh male voice choir were stood on stage. The audience all had Christmas jumpers on. There were various children who'd been given Christmas presents. The snow was falling, and Santa, who was an out-of-work actor from Bury, I believe, was due to literally come round the corner of the stage on the sleigh. And then we were going live to this morning. And the director said, and action, Juzza. And Santa started, and suddenly somebody went, stop! Excuse this. I've never seen a reindeer with an erection, but this reindeer came round the corner of the stage with this monstrosity flapping from side to side. I've had some very, very funny moments, but that was perhaps one of the funniest.
Oh,
a reindeer erection.
Reindeer erection.
Sorry about that.
How do we go from reindeer erection to could you please put your blindfold back on? But we're going to.
There we go.
Because it's time for your second spoon.
How many spoons do I get?
Just the 2.
Oh, I could do this all day.
Yeah, well.
I've got a feeling about this one.
I've got a feeling.
I'm loving this, Johnny. What a great show.
I'm going to slide this in now. Here we go.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Oh, look at that. Look at those colours. Oh, you can't. You're blindfolded.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. But here we go. Knife and fork again.
Oh, God.
I didn't want to get this all done up into a spoon because it looks so...
I know what this is as well.
Do you?
Oh.
Do you, though? I don't think you do. I don't think you
I liked the scallop. You've won me on that. It's brilliant.
No. And this you're gonna love. Open wide. Here we go. What have we got there? Flavours? Textures? What? Hold on. What's that face about?
What's that?
What do you mean, what's that?
What is that?
Do you not like the flavours?
No.
Don't like the textures?
No.
This is supposed to be your love spoon, not your hate spoon.
What is this?
Oh, for God's sake. Take your blindfold. It's white asparagus with... It's new season white asparagus.
I hate asparagus.
It's white asparagus,
I
though.
don't care.
With a wild garlic sauce.
No, nobody ever told anybody that I like asparagus. I hate asparagus.
It's quite clearly here in the notes. What are your favourite ingredients and why? Garlic. First, anything garlic.
Garlic.
Anything
Asparagus.
garlic. Anything garlic,
That-
it says here.
That is absolutely appalling. But I love the scallops. I've done it again. No, I hate asparagus. Sorry, I'm doing it. No, that's good. That's funny.
Yeah.
Garlic's lovely.
It's a wild garlic. It's in season.
The asparagus, though, what's the point of that?
Well done.
No, I'm not having any more. I love the garlic.
Have a little bit of spoon of the garlic.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can spoon me all you want.
There we go.
I love garlic. What an amazing sauce. Asparagus,
But
though.
just don't put it on
But
asparagus.
you're not an asparagus fan. Doesn't it make your wee go white or something?
No,
What's
it doesn't
that?
make your wee go white. It makes it maybe have a slightly different fragrance. I was actually discussing that with my son in the car.
I've taken to taking a Barocca late at night. Do you know what
Oh,
I'm
that can give you a terrifying morning wee.
That means that I don't have to put the light on when I go for the overnight wee because I can actually start before I get there and see where I'm going.
You can see it from.
No, I love the garlic, but the asparagus, awful. Sorry, just being honest.
Right, no. Listen, you know, we try and.
I thought it was going to be couscous.
No, I wouldn't. Look, I wouldn't do double. I thought I was doing you nice there.
The good thing is, though, we did a.
Here's another bar of creations.
Thank you very much. We did a 360 because I love the scallops, and I will genuinely eat scallops now.
Well, you see, that's what we're about. Because
Yes.
I don't believe, despite what you've just said there, that there is such a thing as a bad ingredient. You've just had it cooked for you in a way.
I would agree with that.
You see, we've done our job.
I don't know
there.
why I'm complimenting you, Victoria. Patently, you've cooked everything wrongly.
Well,
That's what Mark Wogan just said.
Don't drag me in on this.
Is that what you're saying about my wife?
I'll come down to the house.
Join me after the break. We'll get the truth. We're coming right back.
On that, I mean, massive thank you for taking part.
So much fun. And I have to say, what an amazing podcast. Can I do the story now?
Yes.
The second most hated man.
Yeah, come on.
Agent
We'll end on this.
rang me up and he went, GQ have done an article about the most hated man in the United Kingdom, the world. And I went, all right. He said, Pol Pot's come fifth, Adolf Hitler's come fourth, Saddam Hussein has come third, and you've come second to Osama bin Laden. And I went, that's outrageous. And he went, you can't even win that, can you? You can't win a national television award, you can't even win that. And then Osama bin Laden got killed and they gave it to me posthumously. And it's in my study. I mean, it's the most, yes, posthumously. And the only other thing I ever won was Gobshite of the Year, and Cavonia gave me a lifetime supply of cough medicine. What? It's true, I promise you.
Have you not got award? You've won a Sony Award, haven't you?
TV Choice Programme of the Year for 27 years on the bounce.
Exactly.
Do you know, it got to the point where I was telling somebody the other day when we were in America, you were talking about how the world changes. We wouldn't go unless we knew we'd won.
I know.
Go in the Dorchester, Jeremy. Have a lovely room with a butler. Arrive. Take your.
Have I won?
And then, have I won? No, I'm only coming if I was ridiculous. Thank you, mate. I love this podcast. It's amazing, and it's such an honour and a pleasure. But I don't like asparagus.
Well, it's been a pleasure to sit down with you. It's always a pleasure to be in
We love you, Mark.
company. But that is all for this week on Spooning with me, Mark Wogan. You can, of course, catch Jeremy now, 4 p.m.
Yes.
What days is it? It's
Only Monday to Wednesday.
Monday to Wednesday.
I'm in the
You
care
work
home on a first
part-time
Friday,
job.
yes.
And that is on Talk Radio. You
Yep.
do the Drive Time show. It is a fantastic show.
And
I've been on it.
And much to come.
Not enough.
No, not
but I've been
not
on
a lot.
it.
And much to come on television. We'll keep you updated.
Exactly. And we look forward to the book as well, because it will, trust me, have some good stories in it. But a huge thank you to the team here at Corrigan's Mayfair. Fantastic food. The asparagus is lovely, despite what Jeremy says. Please join me next week when another very special guest will be...
Who's it going to be next week then?
I can't say.
Can I come again?
No, all right, yeah. All right,
We're doing double bubble next week.
We'll do double bubble, and I'm going to do you prawns in couscous, all right, in their shells, because he hates that as well. If you like what we're doing here, you can get it wherever you get your podcasts from, and also on the Virgin YouTube channel as well. You can see us in Technicolor beauty. Now, until next week, stay beautiful.